So I appreciate each and every one of you for your patience, especially with the last few weeks, the end of quarter 1. We were getting some things tied up, not as an excuse, but once again, we just appreciate all you guys and the support that you guys have been giving us. With that in mind, today's masterclass, something very special, something a lot of contractors constantly ask, to the point where individuals, when they come into business, this is the first thing that they're asking. So to have a good understanding of what business is going to entail, once again, at Energize Us, we're going to build builders, we're going to build leaders. We want to make sure you have the tools to equip you to be the best contractors that you can be. And a big part of that when it comes to running business, if you guys checked out our Instagram Live, we talked about principles. There's individuals who think everything has to be tailored to a different person. That's not true. Business in itself is the same as it's always been. From back in the human days when they were selling and trading for goods, there was always a recognition on there's a baseline principle. You have something of value, someone else has something of value, you exchange it. What's that going to teach us? Well, basically, principles is what we need to understand when you're running business. There's principles to everything. How you apply that principle to you in your business is how you apply it, and only you. That's why your price is different from your competitor's price. If you remove that aspect of tailoring it to you after a principle, if you try to tailor it first, then guess what? Now you're competing with somebody else for the same price. Is that going to work for you if you're just coming into business? We understand that's going to be difficult. So with that in mind, we are going to jump into today's class. Can't wait to share it with you guys, where we're talking about the fundamentals, the understanding your price, so that you guys can estimate and bid appropriately on any project you go on moving forward, either it's residential, either commercial. If you're on the East Coast, you're on the West Coast. What's the principle that we need to understand as contractors as a whole? And it comes down to understanding your cost. If you understand your cost of what it is to do business, what it is to keep your lights on, you will always understand what you need to make so you can keep going. Everything after your costs is a profit to you. And once you start making profit, that's when things become more fun. And that's when you start understanding business. There's reasons why people leave the West Coast to come to the East Coast because of taxes. There's reasons why people do electrical and skilled work rather than grunt labor work like framing, masonry, lawn care. You have to understand that market dictates your value. Market does not dictate your price. Market dictates value. If you're in a contracting field, profession, if you're tackling on work that everybody can do, you're just a laborer, guess what? You're competing with everybody else. But now if you come into the skilled trades, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, trades that require a licensure, you're already in a small group of individuals. One, that means your value goes up because of supply and demand. But now you have a whole new set of competitors within that one single niche as electricians, like most of us are. So when you understand that, you have to recognize the baseline principle that you have to understand your numbers. Because if I have the same amount of years as somebody else, guess what? The value has to stay the same and or have to be expressed differently for you to have a competitive edge. Let's say if you're in your first year of business and somebody's been in year 20, he has whole crews, 401ks, insurance, all for his teams, vehicles, resources, everything, you name it, the whole shebang, and you are just scraping by and you charge a customer the same price as the big guy. Now, can you charge the same price? Once again, we all understand you can. But what will happen if you charge the same price as the big guy? The guy with 20 years of experience, the contractor that built his business, who's rooted in that community, who has a great reputation, great reviews, he's going to say, this kid's new. I have resources. If something happens to me, I'm still around. I've been planning here 20 years. You as the new contractor, you're trying to sell them on the same value, but you don't honestly have the value. Think about it. It's going to be harder for you to sell. Now, if you get it, awesome. I'm just saying you need a competitive edge when it comes to this entire scenario. And that's what we see a lot of contractors failing in. They constantly want to ask other people, what do you charge? What is the best price for this? Instead of asking, how should I charge? How should I stay in business? What is my number? That's the right questions we want to ask. And once again, we go back to the BULD Association. Building builders, building leaders. We want you guys to ask the right question. And that's why we built the blueprint to understanding costs. And this is very worded. There's a lot of different things you have to calculate when it comes down to cost, your basic overhead, as well as labor costs, different things that you have to keep in mind. But once again, if you're serious about contracting, if you're serious about taking your business to the next level, if you're serious about working with other individuals, seeing what they're doing, and understanding the bottom line, that's where you're going to have a leg in the game. Because when you understand your bottom line, you know what you can't go below. That means everything above is extra profit. And just like what we mentioned before, electricians should be charging more than framers, should be charging more than masons, should be charging more than lawn care guys. We guys are a specialty trade. You guys went to schooling, you guys took tests, you guys went through a test exam. You guys deserve to be compensated accordingly. But at the same time, you got to recognize business is not just about that. You have to understand the value proposition. You have to understand the cost it is to be in business. With all of this abbreviated, we have direct costs, indirect costs, hidden costs, taxes, payroll taxes, sales tax, business income tax, property tax, tax planning, you name it. There's a whole bunch of costs when it comes to owning and operating your business. Once again, you don't need to deal with this headache. You have professionals who are equipped for that. But basically, there's so much involved when it comes to just your basic cost. And a lot of us deal with, right now, starting off, your direct cost. Your direct cost, maybe some indirect costs over here, and hidden cost, especially as contractors. Because a lot of us, we follow the industry norm. We want 20, 30% profit margins. But some of the hidden costs, downtime and efficiencies, we start staying on a job longer than we need to. We start cutting that profit margin down. What are some indirect costs? Hey, taking time to go do an estimate. That's not a billable hour. Now you have to get that money back when you bill for the job, but it's not part of the labor itself. Marketing, sales, licensing renewals, equipment, maintenance, trucks, technology, software, CRM, accounting, joining the BULD membership. You join the BULD membership, that all falls under your indirect costs. It's a tax write-off. And then direct cost is how much it's going to cost to do the job, how much hours you're paying yourself, how many hours you're on the job, how many hours are you guys on the job. These are all these different intricacies that you have to understand at the basis to understand it cost me money just to open up my shop. It cost me money just to send a guy out in the field. Once that van is turned on, you're wasting gas, you have to pay insurance, you have to pay for your license, you have to pay workers' comp, you have to pay the individual. Just by turning on that clock, you already know he's going to be on the clock for 4 hours. So, with all these different things in mind, all these different things that are cooking, you have to understand all these different aspects where you have to account for, or you're going to be below your operating cost. And the best way of teaching that is by an example. Today, we developed our coursework based off of one of the jobs my personal electrical contracting just been awarded. So I'm going to go over with you the proposal, the bid that we just won for a contract. Now, once again, moments like these are for learning and training purposes. So if you have any comments, questions, concerns, feel free to drop it in the chat down below. I'll read it out loud just in case it's somebody in our class, masterclass, BULD Association might have a similar question. So feel free to jump in at any time. But all in all, basically, one of our contractors, one of our GCs, one of our builders is moving into a new warehouse. And their warehouse, they have to develop and build out 9 offices. We're going to be doing that for them. Here's the thing. They now have to move in the next 3 weeks. They're just finished their lease in another building. So we understand that when a job is urgent, supply and demand, so we had to raise the prices up. Plus you're taking a guy that I already have contracted. Remember, we have 3 months runtime on our projects. So now it's taking a guy out, an entire crew out for a month, because that's what the contract said. It was billable for 4 weeks, accordingly for 2 guys. So you already start doing the math. I need to pull somebody out just to sit on that type of crew, just to sit on that job. That's another thing that we have to keep in mind. But all in all, the entire project is doing the rough, doing the final inspections, materials, demo of an old office space, build up a new one when it comes to the electrical side of things. But we're gonna show how efficiency creates profit. So just like the ones who joined us when I won the battery contract, doing the room build outs, we talked about how it was bid for 3 days, we brought it down to 2 days, how if we went from 1 job a week to 2 jobs a week, the profit margins, and exactly like that. We're gonna show you how we won the bid, and actually we're gonna make more money by lowering our price. We're gonna make more money on the profits by staying efficient. Because once again, a lot of us as contractors, we just wanna jump in and start swinging the hammer. And guess what? We get stuck in, we don't communicate, job gets delayed, job doesn't get paid out, we don't go get into the job on the right time frame, things happen, we don't communicate it, everyone gets frustrated. Now there's hidden cost in that. We're gonna show you how our team handles everything. You guys already know, and if you guys are part of Build, if you guys are already working with us, you've seen our office staff. We have 3 office staff, we have systems, all that stuff. And we showed it to you guys, SOPs, QCs on how to go step by step to tackle this project. And that's what we're gonna show with you guys today. So basically, the scope of work, this commercial project, once again, what I love working with this general contractor, labor only. So we're focused on only labor cost for this commercial build out. So right now, off the bat, you already know the job is urgent. You know it's labor only. So the money that we're gonna make a markup, we're gonna put it for profit margins. And at the same time, it's commercial work. We're already talking some big bucks for 4 weeks of work. So, scope of work, disconnecting, relocating light fixtures, because remember, it's an existing office space, drop ceiling staying the same. So we're just relocating those lights. We have to extend some whips and so on, so on. Roughing in, we're counting for each room. The biggest room, I think it was 15 by 15. So with the square footage, we're basically saying, hey, let's throw in 5 outlets, a switch, dedicated circuit for each room. So dedicated circuit, we see over here. We also see right here, rough in 5 outlets. We got 1 switch. We got dedicated home runs to the panel that we're going to be working with. We have a few junction boxes, you know, labeling, conduit, all that stuff is this basic commercial work. So the contract, once again, labor only, and at the same time, it's a commercial project. So with all those facts, you guys understand the scope of work. So if it's 9 rooms, let's say build close to end, a day a room, right? So let's say round up to 10 days. So you already see where there's opportunities to cut costs, opportunities to incentivize the team, just like what we mentioned before. But all in all, the contract details. Here's the fun stuff. So remember, each one of you guys are different. Each one of you guys as a contractor have your own operating costs. You have your own expenditures. You have your own overhead. For me, myself, when it comes to this business, this is why I say we have to understand the principle. Yes, you have to understand your numbers, but the principle is you have to know your numbers. So before any of this starts, we go to our CFO, we go to our accountant, and guess what we say? What's my overhead percentage for 2025 quarter 2? My overhead is 23%. Beautiful. Thank you. I have insurance. I have to cover for my guys dental, insurance, 401k, the whole shebang. What's my labor burden when it comes to that? 35%. That's over here. That includes the insurance that goes on top of my hourly rate, guys. That includes the taxes that I have to pay for payroll expenditures. All that stuff comes out to 35% of basically my cost is going to go straight to my guys in labor. So money comes in, 35% of it is going straight to my labor force. So with this in mind, what's some of the details? I have 2 electricians. My electrician begins in the state of Connecticut, licensed. We have our journeymen, $40 an hour. I got 2 of them. So $40 an hour, times that by 8, we're already looking at what? 320, guys? Right? 320 a day for 1 guy, per guy. Times that by 2, 640 for a day, 2 guys, a crew. So with it being commercial work, I also have my 2 journeymen who are going to tackle this, because you're going to see later on how I want this to be more efficient. This is a job with a quick turnaround time. I don't have the luxury for training just like the battery jobs. So I'm going to be doing it in the most efficient way possible. With that being said, we had 4 weeks, right, of this total project. So which is 320 hours for the total project. The client, I'm charging them at $160 an hour, which comes out to $51K. So for $51K, I won this job to take my guys out the field to sit on this project for the next 4 weeks for this scope of work. Now, do you guys think it takes 4 weeks to do the electrical rough, trim out, and tie in for 9 rooms, all on 1 floor, drop ceiling? We understand, no, we can break that down into 2. So in my head, I'm like, perfect, this is opportunity where we bill due to the urgency for 320 hours, you know, for the rest of the month, 80 hours per week times 4. And then at the same time, we keep these same value here, but we can be more efficient during the scope of work. How do you become more efficient? By systems, by communication, by soft skills. So with that in mind, we come down here. So this just breaks down the values. So I wanted you guys to see, basically, as we do this job, what's the total cost going to be for me? Right here. $20,000 is the total cost. For my guys to work the whole month, this is the cost. My burden, remember, 35% gets tacked on. Overhead, 23% gets tacked on. So my total cost of business will be $20,000. So for me to stay in business, I need to charge $20,224. That means all the money coming in, all the money going out. That would mean I'm 0 profit margins. But remember, for you to stay in business, you need to cover all your costs. So my bottom line, my burden rate, if I want to stay in business to make this worth it, $20,224. But we understand with what I bid for at my hourly rate, this is my target profit margin. So I'm going to make 60% profit margins. But that's if everyone works their 40-hour week for 4 weeks, no stress, no shebang. And this is going to be the net profit after you deduct this from the 50. But we all know at the same time, there's ways we can be more efficient. So my goal is to have the guys tackle this accordingly, project manage the heck out of it, incentivize the guys. So from 320 hours in field as a cost, I can bring that down to 160 hours. And you're going to see the difference. So if my guys do everything accordingly, we can drop and gain 80% profit margin by doing more efficient work. And that's not cracking the whip on my guys. That's just eliminating the waste. What's the waste? Just like what we mentioned before, a lot of the waste is right here. Downtime and inefficiencies, reworks and warranty cost, client costs, and inflation and prices. These are all things that can affect us. Now with the China stuff, can it mess us up with the supply chain? Definitely. But guess what? Everything's on site. That's not a worry. The client, they're rushing. Do you think they're gonna be a client and be all picky? No, they want us in because guess what? They've already lost their lease. They have to get in there. So that's not an issue. Rework and downtime. If my guys are milking the job, we're gonna lose money. Rework, if my guys don't do it appropriately to code and do a proper install and fail inspection, that's gonna come out of our pockets, true or not. So right now we understood where's all the risk. We don't have to worry about the client because they need to move in. So they're gonna let us do what we have to do. We understand the material's on site. The hardest part is the material. The most costly part is the material. Next is the work. Who's in charge of downtime, inefficiencies, and reworks? That's all on us. That's why in this opportunity that we have, it's so important to be efficient. How are we going to be efficient? Well, here, one, we have to show that efficiency, remember, is not about cutting corners. It's about eliminating the waste. How do we eliminate the waste, the inefficiencies, the reworks? That's by understanding the hard skills, communicating, soft skills, and making sure the team has everything that they need to be successful in this job. And guess what? We're going to incentivize by profit sharing by the performance. So we understand this is a hard skill right now. We got to get the job done. We have to work efficiently. So the guys need to perform. If they perform on that timetable and help us reach our goal of the 80%, remember, we're already making money at the 60% profit margins. That's more than enough for us. If we now come to the 80% profit margins, normally 4 weeks is at 60. If we break it down to 2 weeks, we're at 80. And if they break it down in these 2 weeks, we're going to incentivize them with the profit sharing. That is how we're going to effectively motivate our teams. So they can basically make another 2 weeks paycheck calmly sitting on site. Or do you want a bonus cash for banging this out in 2 weeks and then we jump to the next battery jobs that we have already stacked up? It's something like that to think about. So this team will still get paid their standard hourly rate. If they hit the 2 week goal, they qualify for profit sharing. It incentivizes them for performance, coordination, site communication. Remember, this is a commercial job. There's going to be other trades there. There's framing, there's drywall, there's painting. All this stuff is going to be working around each other. How are we going to do that? By proper communication. If some guys are waiting on another crew and guess what? They just sit around while they can work on something else. This can easily get sloppy, especially with the pressure. Let's show them what soft skills, let's show them what safety, let's show them what communication is all about, and we can apply that to everything. So with that in mind, we want to remind you guys that most contractors lose money in time. They bid a job for a week and it takes 2 weeks. They bid a job for 2 weeks and it takes 3 weeks. They lose money in time. And guess what? If you don't know how to bid according to time, because at the end of the day, that's what your cost is. Your cost is how long something's going to take for you to get done. That's why people want to charge time and material, because at least they're guaranteed a paycheck, even a small profit margin. But guess what? When you bid work, you get bigger profit margin, but you have to make sure you're bidding appropriately, because the longer you're on the site, that's what takes away from the entire profit margin if it goes beyond that scope. That's why people are afraid of, because they don't trust themselves. They don't have the confidence in, hey, I said 2 weeks, we're going to get this done in 2 weeks. And sometimes companies shave off a day or two to ease off on that price so the customer can say yes, and now you rush your guys to do it, and then that's when stuff hits the fan. You know what I mean? not in material, because material markup, that's the same everywhere you go, and labor rates. Everywhere you go, someone's charging their guys $20, $30, $40 an hour. If you honestly think about it, everybody basically is charging around 100 some an hour because everybody's basically making 20, 30, 40 an hour. And we're slapping another 20, 30% as profit. So if you think about it, everybody is paying for the same material. Everybody's still paying for the same labor when it comes to their workforce. Everybody's still paying for the most part the same vehicle, the same insurance prices. Everybody is typically on the same playing field. The only difference is if you're a new guy, your overhead cost and the time you have is completely different from somebody who's already been established in business. That's the purpose why I keep trying to tell you guys. This is very important in the sense where a lot of you guys have a way of competing with the bigger names. And it's because your relationship to time is different from them. You're willing to give more time and energy to them. They are just going to keep you 8 to 4. After 5 o'clock, leave a message. You guys use your time effectively. You guys do the free estimates. You guys do the site walks. You guys will stay longer on a job site to make sure it gets done. These guys who have been around longer, that's their competitive edge. And your time comes down to a lower price because at the end of the day, that's where we lose money. But all in all, guys, this is some final words for you guys. Hard skills, get it done. This job's going to get done by hard skills. We need a product. We have a service that we have to give. Hard skills, get it done. Soft skills is what's going to get us there faster. Soft skills is what's going to make this more efficient. Soft skills is what's going to help the client, knowing that, hey, he's going to get chewed out on this. Hey, at the same time, the client understands he's rushed. He feels like he's going to, lose an arm and a leg. Walk with him, talk with him, help him understand what's involved, okay? When you build a system that rewards execution, your team doesn't just finish the job, they finish it better, faster, safer, cleaner, the whole shebang, guys. All of this is possible. When the team wins, they all chase the performance together and we all keep growing. Once again, guys, I appreciate each and every one of you. This is how I'm going to bid this job that's starting on Monday. Once again, I'm going to give you all the content, guys. Can't wait to show it. I'm going to be on site with these guys. I want to see exactly what goes on behind the scenes, how they're going to plan, how they're going to prep. Once again, all of this is going to be exciting just to show you what's possible once you understand the principles of business. Remember, nobody's perfect. Nobody has all the answers. But if you live by a simple principles, if you live by the rules of business, and then you apply it into every scenario, you guys are going to win. I'm not a commercial guy. You guys know that. I'm going to show you how to do commercial work. I'm going to show you how to bid for appropriate commercial work. Now, with this scope of work, with the 9-room build-outs, with this time frame, did I appropriately bid for this job? Because I'm new to this. I know my burden rate. I know what it's going to cost me. So 60% or 80% profit margin is still good for me. Now, this is a new market I'm in, commercial. I don't understand what the profit margin should be for commercial. But at the end of the day, I know I have enough to pay my guys. I know I have enough for the insurance. I know I have enough for the vehicles. I know I have enough to cover all the costs and warranties, as well as our skilled labor. And we're still making 60 to 80% profit margins. You tell me, what's that about? I'm not looking for the next guy to tell me how much should I charge for that. No, I'm going to take it on the chin and go in and see what's going on. What do you guys think? I'm going to open this up for Q&As now, but hope and I thank each and every one of you guys for joining us today in our masterclass of understanding what is the cost. This is the blueprint to cost. And once again, if you guys are a part of the BULD membership, if you guys are part of the BULD Association, you guys will have this lesson plan tonight. Understanding cost. You're going to have the whole framework. You're going to have our example of the job that we just got awarded, all for you guys to follow. Direct cost, indirect cost, hidden cost. Once you start growing your business, now you have these other different things you want to worry about. But we're going to focus on these first 3 qualities. Thank you all for joining us. I'm going to now flip the camera to answer some of the questions. But I want to hear from you guys. Feel free to jump in. Feel free